Welcome to Mom Boss Central. I'm your host, Alexia Hoffman. This podcast is where entrepreneurial moms like you and me come together for real and raw conversations filled with practical tips, genuine stories, and a whole lot of girl power. But it's not just about listening, it's about building a community. If you haven't already, make sure to join at mombosscentral.com. So whether you're sipping on a cup of coffee, pouring yourself a glass of wine, or tuning in on the go, get ready to join the conversation and become part of our supportive Mom Boss Central community. Chelsea, welcome to the show. So happy to have you on. Will you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Chelsea Husum. I live in Denver, Colorado. I have two sons. They are 7 and just turned 11. And I own a construction company. I'm also a best-selling author and a speaker.
Well, excited to have you here. I'd love to just dive right in
Thank you.
learn more about you and how you got into the construction world. Before we started the episode, we mentioned there's not a lot of women in the construction world. So tell me how you landed there.
Yeah, there are not a lot, and it was by accident, truly. I didn't do it on purpose, but I ended up here and I love it. But I graduated college with a Spanish degree and a broadcast journalism degree. Thought I wanted to go into be the next Barbara Walters, be a news anchor. And then I was looking at jobs and they all made like 20 grand and work nights and weekends as reporters. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. So at that point, my college bills were coming, the loans were coming due. I had to start paying on them. And so I just needed a job. And so I'm from a small town in South Dakota. I had to move to Denver to do my internship for my degree. And so I did that, stayed here. And then I got a job as a temp receptionist for all these different companies downtown Denver. And this woman was like, hey, you need to meet my sister. She is at a experiential marketing or trade show company and she needs a receptionist. So I went there, she hired me. I moved my way up through that company and I think I worked there about 5 or 6 years. And then I just was like, I didn't feel like I was doing anything worthwhile with my life and was like, I knew I wanted something different. So did some soul searching, decided I wanted to be a teacher and use my Spanish degree. So I actually quit, got my master's in education and then became a high school Spanish teacher for 10 years. So
Wow,
completely different.
I was not
stepped
expecting
into that.
Yes.
Yeah, totally different. And, I really loved it. But the last year was kind of brutal, honestly. And I just was like, I don't love this anymore. And for me, if I don't love something, I got to move on. I just can't deal with a job I hate. I just can't. And so then again, I was like, okay, well, now what am I going to do? And I applied for all these jobs. No one called me. No one no one responded to my applications, which was quite discouraging. And then the only job I got offered, I ended up taking was a office manager for a different construction company, but that got me into commercial construction, kind of got thrown in. I barely got trained. It was rough. I cried a lot. It was brutal, but I learned the real hard way. And then, in March of 2020, I started my company and just kind of started building it slowly that year. But I worked both jobs till April of 22. And then finally I was like, I physically cannot do this. It's just too much because my company was growing rapidly. So then I finally just stepped into what I do now.
Yeah. That is so awesome. I love that you shared all the twists and turns that it took for you to get there because I think so often we see the end result and we think oh wow, it's great. They make it look easy, but it's it's not always a straight path. And I think sometimes things that we think we were going to be excited about, but we aren't, can feel so disappointing. So I love that you shared how you, pivoted a few times and it was still not where you were meant to. Never shared this on the podcast is I also have a degree in multimedia journalism. So there's a lot of overlap with us and now being in the construction real estate space. So that's very awesome. Funny. Yeah, but talk to me about, the time frame. I mean, you said your sons are 7 and 11 and your business was started 4 years ago. So talk to me about what it was like to work another job, have young kids, start a business, scale a business, and, what that season of life was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, I'll be honest. And, you throw COVID in there too, when you have your little kids home, your husband's home, you're all trying to work, the kids are doing
Yeah.
online school. Like, I
Yeah.
cried a lot. It was like, I'm not over
Yeah.
here crafting and napping, people. It's
I missed it.
chaos. It's
Yeah.
chaos, But so, I'm like trying to do Zoom calls and there's scream crying, banging on
Oh,
the
yeah.
door. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I think everyone was in the boat then, the same boat.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like, I had a lot on my plate at that time. And I mean, I still do in different ways, but like I've learned over the years to like what to say yes to, what to say no to. I've learned to better protect my time because
Yeah.
I do literally everything for the company minus my employees that are out on a construction site. Like I do everything. So I don't have time. I get, asked a lot like from bankers or insurance people like, "Hey, do you want to have coffee? I want to see how I can support you." Really, and that's so sweet, but they just want my business. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest. And I don't it's a waste of their time and it's a waste of my time because I'm not going to switch. That's like the biggest pain in the butt ever. I'm not doing it. So,
Yeah.
it's like I nicely say no because it's a waste of my time and it's not
Yeah.
not how I should be spending my time because then it just overwhelms me and I have a million things to do. So it's like setting boundaries, like what meetings am I going to? Is it actually worth it? Or is it
Yeah.
just, am I feel like I should be there to show my face? Well, then really, do I maybe don't go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's hard when you're working all day and then you're gone at night 3 or 4 nights a week at events. It can be too much. So it's like
Yeah.
I've learned kind of the hard way, and it's always ebbs and flows. It's different every day,
Mhm.
every week, right? And there are
Yeah.
times where you do have to step it up and focus more on your business. But
Yep.
I try to kind of pull it back, or if I feel myself getting really worn down or like, overwhelmed, I bring it all back a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you're saying is so important and like a reoccurring as a theme, because that's not the right word, but something that a lot of successful entrepreneurs have in common is that ability to
Yes.
recognize when the overwhelm, the burnout, whatever you want to call it, starts creeping in and having ways of protecting your energy and saying no and setting those boundaries. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so huge and also so hard to do when
It
you're
is.
new in a business or when you're in a growth
Mm-hmm.
phase or, the guilt that creeps in on both sides of business, the guilt of not spending enough time with your family. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that is just like, I think as a mom and an entrepreneur, that is what we are all experiencing and how
For
we're
sure.
all trying to figure it out in our own way. So, talk to me about what saying no did for you and how you had the courage to like stay firm on protecting your time when those meetings come up or when you feel like you should say
Mm-hmm.
yes to something, but you know that it's not what you want to be doing.
Yeah, I kind of ask myself, like, is it moving? Is this event or this, whatever it is, going to move my business forward? Am I getting good client time or like with a new client or whatever? Like, is it moving my business forward? Then yes, it's a yes. If it's not, it's a waste of time. Or
Yeah.
any really event in life too. We all get a million invites, right? It's okay, whatever that is that aligned directly with my personal goals, my life,
Mm,
what I want my life to be? And if it's not, kindly say no. And we do. We all feel
yeah.
bad, like, oh my gosh, I feel bad for saying no, but actually, no is a complete sentence, and we don't have to be mean about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, oh, I'm so nice. Like, I'm a nice girl. I have to, like, oh, make up this elaborate excuse or something. But maybe
Yeah.
that night
Yeah.
I just need rest. And honestly
Yeah.
saying, I so appreciate the invitation. I'm not going to be able to make it. I have previous commitments that night. And maybe it's laying on the couch,
Yeah.
trying
Heck
to
yeah.
rest and like refill your
Definitely.
soul. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
like we have to be okay with that. And we're always going to have the mom guilt. We truly are. Like yesterday, I literally was walking into a very large meeting, like with this woman who owns a electrical company. She does
Mhm.
like 15 million a year. She is like amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just freaking awesome. And I've been trying to get to know her. We've been, throwing around dates for lunch for months now. And I was like, I get a call from the school that my son's on a hike and he's shutting down and having issues and he's not staying with the group. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's always going to be stuff like that come up. I mean, whether
Yeah.
it's a kid having problems or sick or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just, you do the best you can. And honestly, I went in luckily, I called all my neighbors, no one could get him. I called my husband, he was an hour away, but he went and got him. But I went into that meeting, like, kind of with bad energy, and I was, like,
Yeah.
upset, and I could have cried. I was, like, outside trying not to cry, just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh." But and I just told her that, and she's like, "Girl," and she shared how she had a hard time with her son, and she's
Mm,
like, "It is hard. You're growing a business, you're scaling a business." But understanding that we're not alone either, and just being
mm,
real and vulnerable and being like, "Yeah, I'm kinda struggling right now," that actually will connect us all deeper in life and
yes.
business.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And that's why I love working with other moms. Like this platform for
Mhm.
me has been so fulfilling to have these conversations because I think it's like that reminder that we're all human and we all struggle with
Yep.
so much of the same thing. Um, and as moms, I think we're just more understanding that life happens and there's not this
Yeah.
expectation of perfection. I don't know about, I never been in a man's shoes, so I can't say, but I just
Mhm.
think there's a lot lower tolerance for quote unquote like excuses. I think a man will call something an excuse, where for us, we're going to say, like,
Mhm.
this is real life. This is what's going on. This is the context that humanizes me. And I'm still going to
Yeah.
get my work done. Like, I'm still going to be a badass and do what I need to
Absolutely.
do. But there's other
Yep.
things on my mind right now. And you should know about that because that is
Mhm.
impacting how I am viewing this conversation. So I think that's huge. And I love that you
For
had the
sure.
courage to share that with her because I'm sure it made the conversation like, you guys were able to get on the same page, like you said, a lot quicker than if you were to try to go in
Yeah.
and, hide how you were feeling and struggling through that and not show up as like your most authentic self. So I think that's
Yeah.
huge and so, so great that like you're also able to connect with other women in the industry and have those like intimate conversations that you wouldn't
Mhm.
be able to otherwise have or maybe feel confident to share. Talk to me about like when you chose to leave that other job and how
Mhm.
you decided it was the right time financially, how you had the, ability to do
Mhm.
that. Cause that can be such a hard step for entrepreneurs that are listening that are still working another job. They think they're ready to
Yep.
take the leap, but they're maybe not sure if they can handle it or if their finances can handle it. So tell me about that
Mhm.
transition for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reality. We need money to live, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many people that are dreaming of starting a company, but a lot of times the reality is you kind of got to suck it up and work two jobs for a while. Like, I literally didn't pay myself for my construction company until this year, and I make less
Mm,
than all of my employees, like quite a
yeah.
bit less.
Yeah.
It's like, first I'm building the company. I'm trying to get good employees. I'm taking care of them. I'm doing all this stuff, right? It's not
Yeah.
like I'm just sitting here over here pocketing a bunch of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like figuring that out. That was just a reality I had to do. And my husband didn't have a job for a while, so he actually was making the only money we had. So we kind of cut
Mm,
back for a while, but then he got a new job, and it was a good job. So it was like, you know what? It's time. We can do this as a family and
yeah.
figure out how to make this work, even without paying myself for a while. But like towards the end of it, like the other company, it was really disorganized, a mess. Every morning I had this anxiety, like, oh, what's going to happen today? It's what call am I going to get? Some mess I got to clean
Mm,
up. Or it was just
yeah.
the company as a whole was very unorganized, like financials, like everything. So it was
Mm,
constantly putting out fires. And I'm really organized, and
mhm.
I'm a really hard worker, and I'm very organized. And so like I don't thrive in a situation like that at all. It's just too much craziness for me. So it
Yeah.
was like where at the end I'm like, okay, this is wearing on me. I don't, like I said, I don't thrive in that environment. So I was like, okay, my husband has this job
Yeah.
now, that helps. And then I like just mentally was over it, and I knew I
Mm,
needed to move on. Yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people I get it. That's the reality. Unless you're winning the lottery, which believe me, I'm trying, but we need money. We need to live. We got to
Yeah.
keep the lights on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you shared that you paid yourself less than a lot of your
I
employees
still
and,
do.
that
Yep, a
it
lot
took,
less.
y- yeah. And that, it takes
Mhm.
time to be profitable. So I'd love to
Yeah.
understand in your mind why and how you continue to push on when it's not necessarily a big paycheck at the end of the day. Because I think so
Mhm.
often we start a business with
Mhm.
hopes and dreams, and then we know we're going to
Mhm.
have to do work for some amount of time, but then the goal is, right,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's going to be something that gives me freedom of time, freedom of finances, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And so in that season of growth, it can be hard to stay on that track, especially when it's been years. I think we give
Mhm.
ourselves expectations of how long it should take in our mind. At least I do that. Um, and I don't know what your expectations were, but talk to me about like how
Mhm.
you continued to move the needle forward, knowing that you
Mhm.
make less than your employees and that you still are spending a lot of time building the business.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Have this fire inside me that I truly love what I do, and like I said, I never planned to own my own company, be in construction, anything like this, but I weirdly fell into it and I love it so much. And
Yeah.
I guess I know that I've built this business. I know every single thing I've done. I have worked my butt off to build
Mhm.
this. So, I mean, I see it growing. Like the first year in 2020, like I said, we didn't do much. We did $17,000 in revenue.
Mm.
Second year, we did 200. Third year,
Wow.
480,000. And last year,
Yeah.
I did seven. This
That's
year, I should
amazing.
be over 1 million. And it's so I see that even though I'm not sitting here making a bunch of money or
Mhm.
hardly any, right?
Yeah.
I am proud of myself and I'm proud of what I have built and what my employees have built. We've built it together. And so I've seen clients like they're receptive to us. They want to work with
Mhm.
us, right? So I think I just get energized by my employees and like our clients that see value in what we're doing. But I mean, most companies don't make a profit for years. And so
Yeah.
if you're getting into it hoping to be making 100 grand or more like right away, it probably, unless you found some random thing and you just hit it big, it probably isn't going to happen. And it's like, but you might not have the skin for to be an entrepreneur either if you're
Yeah.
expecting that because man, this is the hardest thing ever. And those of us that have literally everything on the line, like
Mhm.
everything, your
Yeah.
home, your livelihood is on the line, like you got to make it work, right? You
Yeah.
can't mess it up.
Yeah.
We're a special like kind of person. I say we're a special kind of crazy in the best way possible because like other
Yeah.
people would be like, oh my god, no, I'm gonna just go to my job, make my salary, get my really good benefits, and then come home and not think about work. Well, we're laying in bed like, oh my god, I gotta do this. Oh yeah,
That's
this. You can't, you have
that.
notes next
Yeah.
to your bed, and you think of work in the middle of the night when you wake up. I mean, it's just you're never done, right?
Yeah.
But it's either like in your blood or not, right? And but if you're starting a business thinking it's going to be easy, it's not. But I will say
Mhm.
it is so worth it. Like I love
Yeah.
my life now and I've created a life I love and I don't work 60 hours a week. I don't need
Yeah.
to. I bust it out and I make the best use of my time and then I go live my life. And it's
Yeah.
like I'm really finding a good balance. So it is worth it. You got to know you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, yeah, I love everything that you said about that. And I think here, you saying that it's in your blood as an entrepreneur, like I talk about that so much. I think all these moms that come on the show and that are part of the community, it's funny because a lot of them, have ebbed and flow in entrepreneurship with having kids. Some
Mhm.
of them, took time
Yeah.
off before, like when they were having their kids, when their kids were young, but they always, you could like look back on their lives and see how it's always been there, right? It's not something that we can
Mhm.
get away
Mhm.
from because I think it's our mindset. We're just looking at opportunities differently and we're looking at the world
Yeah.
differently. Like we're here to fix problems. And like you said, it's like we're going to work so hard. In my opinion, we work harder than, anyone else because we're passionate about it.
Mhm.
And it's like when you're
Yeah.
obsessed with it and like you're working towards something, it's so exciting and so fulfilling, even on the hard days, even through the dry
Mhm.
seasons and the struggles. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
everything you said is just so relatable and important for entrepreneurs to hear, especially if they are in a tough season. Now, for you,
Mhm.
having employees, that's a definite different aspect in
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. I think, for
Mhm.
anyone listening who has their own employees, that responsibility is just something different. And once you take
It
that leap,
is.
I don't know for you how, you haven't had employees early on with the nature of your business. So talking about how you
Mhm.
manage that responsibility and in the lean years, what you did to kind of feel good about what, how you're managing.
Mhm. Yeah, so I knew being in construction, obviously, it's really intense and people can die if they don't know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They have to be safe, they have to be good. So I do things a little differently. Like there's a lot of big companies in town. They definitely don't do this, but I pay my employees for 40 hours a week, whether they're working or not. And I pay them very well. I pay them way more than they made at their previous jobs, but they probably at their previous jobs worked nights and weekends and a lot of overtime as well. But I pay them very well. And I pay them if like some days, like if it's a Thursday and we don't have work for somebody, they're at home chilling and they're getting paid. So
That's so cool.
but I do that because I need really good people, and I can't expect somebody to come work for me and then, oh, they only worked 30 hours this week and they're personally taking a hit. Like we all have to make money, we all have to make a living. They have families to take care of,
Yeah.
right? So I know that I have to do that because it's important to me and I need good people. So honestly, I'll do anything to take care of these people. So I do that differently. You know, I pay them weekly. It's a responsibility that I will never take lightly. I've never missed a paycheck to them and I never will. Like I figure it out. Earlier on in the, early stages, I remember going to the bank each week to get money for payroll. Now we've been generating stuff, so I just pay them, right? But I remember those days and it was like, oh gosh, how am I going to make payroll this week? I got to go pull out more money. It's different, but you have to have good people. Like I can get a first job. They will continue to get jobs. Hate what they do and they clearly don't want to be there. You're not going to grow. You're not going to grow at all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's huge, I think, to treat your people well and to have good people. I think that does make such a difference. And obviously, been growing in a way that shows what you're doing is working. So that's super, super exciting. You mentioned that you don't work 60 hours a week, which is, as an entrepreneur, sometimes hard to say and to like stick to that in the busy season. So talk to me about logistically, what does your schedule look like? How do you balance time with your family versus time on work? And I know you mentioned nights and weekends as well.
So I
what the
am
requirements are for you during that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've made it work. I'll give some examples. So I am boring, like 95-year-old grandma. I go to bed at 9 at night. I'm like, peace out. I'm exhausted. I put my 7-year-old to bed at like 8:30 and then I'm like, okay, let's cuddle and let's pass out. But I also get up at 5:30 and I go to the gym because that is, while my family still sleeps, that is time for me because in construction, my phone starts ringing at 6 or 7 in the morning. I've been on the treadmill at the gym, like in a class, like having to text people. But I found if I say I'm going to work out at 2:00, it is never going to happen. Like something comes up, then I'm tired. Then I'm just like, well, I have all these other things to do. It's like I found a really good routine that take care of me and move my body first thing. And that sets my day up for success. It gives me more energy. And every day for me is different. So I'm on a lot of podcasts. I'm traveling to Dallas tomorrow to go speak at my first national convention, which is,
awesome.
really exciting. But I will work, I'll go work along and figure it out. For example, last year I was like, okay, I'm going to be 40. I want to turn 40 in Italy. Well, again, like I mentioned, I do everything for the company. So I just hired someone to help me with invoices and things like that, but really I do everything else. But last year I had no one. I traveled to Italy for 10 days with my husband and another couple, and I literally went and ate as much pasta as humanly possible, drank Aperol spritzes, and I came home and I worked till with the time difference, and then I would work and catch up on emails and calls and schedule my employees and whatever for the next day. And I made it work somehow. And I had a blast. I've been in Mexico numerous times working while my kids are in the pool. I've ski and then I go throw them in the pool while I catch up. Or sometimes on a Saturday, I get up early. So I'm like, it's 6 a.m. on a Saturday. I can't sleep. So I just come while everyone's sleeping and I just catch up a little. So the hours are weird. But I know what I have to do and then I'll go do it and then I'll move on. Right. So you have to know what's important to you. And it's actually like our to-do list is never done. But okay, did I get what I absolutely had to do today? Timely done. Okay, then move on. Go have some fun. Get outside. Walk your dog. Play with your kids. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's huge. And I love that you talked about the vacation aspect of it because I think, people talk about working on vacation, and I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And I don't know if it's just what my
Mhm.
content has been lately or if it's just a general shift in the opinion of the public, but I've
Mhm.
seen so much negativity around working on vacation, like, oh, just take a vacation, take a break, which, like, that's all great. And I think there is a time and a
Mhm.
place for that, but also there is seasons where that's not possible. So I don't
It's not for
feel
us. Yeah, if you're doing
exactly.
everything, the company will
Yeah,
fail and your clients will hate you. Like, you physically
exactly.
cannot do that.
Yeah, and so I think
Right?
it's like what people forget is like, hey, I'm still going on vacation and I'm gonna have like I saw this reel that said like, people say like vacations with kids is just parenting in a different location. And that's not true because I don't have to unload the dishwasher on vacation. And like I can
True.
sit and
Yeah.
have coffee in the pool and I can't do that at home.
Yeah,
Like things like that. And
exactly.
I think that's my mindset. I'm actually going on vacation soon with my kids and it's going to be
Yeah.
insane. So they have 3 kids under they're 18 months and then a 2-month-old. So 2 18-month-olds, a
Okay.
2-month-old. We're all flying. We are bringing a nanny. By the time this is aired, we will have hopefully survived the trip and recovered. But yeah, so we're going on this trip and in my mind, it's like I start to talk about it, I get a little overwhelmed, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm so lucky to have this opportunity where I
Yes.
can work from Hawaii. I can work from California.
Wherever.
I can work wherever I
Yes.
want. I can still
Mhm.
I can take time off. If I only work an hour a day, or if I work no
Mhm.
days, if I take 3 days off and then I work a full day on, I can I can decide what I want to do. And that is such a blessing. Like
Exactly.
I am not taking that for granted. And I'm lucky that I get to work on
Mhm.
vacation because I don't have to work during the week every week when I'm here if I don't want to. I can go get my nails done. I can go get my
Mhm.
lashes done.
Yeah.
So the people that are saying, oh, don't
Yes.
work on vacation, are they the ones that are also working 9 to 5 and they have to go get their nails and toes done on a night away from their kids? I mean, I'm not no shame to that, but don't shame me
Yeah.
for wanting to work because I get a lot of joy from work too. Like my husband
Exactly.
and I love that. Like that's a huge connection piece for us. So to do it on vacation makes it more fun.
Yeah, and you get to travel more. You're not like you're not
Yeah.
working a job that where you get 2 or 3 weeks vacation a
Yep.
year. Like,
Exactly.
we actually can travel more and be like, "You know what? I wanna pick up and drive and do something with the family." Great, then do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There is more freedom. And yeah, you might have to
Mhm.
work a little bit, but maybe, just bust out what you need to do and then move on, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a huge thing for my husband and I. Before we had kids, he was still working a 9 to 5 job. And I have always, always loved to
Mhm.
travel. That was a huge thing for me. And before we started dating, he was not a big travel person, like just not
Mhm.
prioritizing it. And he like had not taken any of his vacation days at his job. Like he just didn't think about
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, that's not going to work for me long term. Like, I need to be able to, like,
Yeah.
go. If I want to go for 2 weeks somewhere, I don't need, like, I don't want it to be like, oh, is your boss approved? So that's not going to work. So
Exactly.
he
We
ended
are
up
the
using
boss. We approve.
yes, yes, I approve, exactly. So when he became like an entrepreneur, that was such a huge thing for me to have that freedom. Obviously, with young
Mhm.
kids, we still don't travel as much as we want, but that's another reason I had all my
You
kids
will
so close.
and you
Yeah, it's like
can.
they're gonna
Yeah.
be all out of like I don't want to say out of the house, but they're all gonna be in school at a very similar time frame. It's not like I have
Mhm.
to wait 10 years to go back into diapers and back out and like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel strongly enough about like the life that I want to live where it's like I'm thinking
Mhm.
about all that and like traveling, I'm gonna go do what I want to do because that's why I got into being an
Yep.
entrepreneur. Like that was such a huge thing for me.
Mhm. No, I totally agree.
Do you feel that since you have become an entrepreneur, left the like career changes behind, that your mindset has shifted on the time with your family and the priorities of what your weeks look like?
I mean, I try to as my kids get older, I'm trying to kind of talk to them about certain things like, "Hey, mommy has a really big meeting today,"
Mm,
or they every day after school, we go check my PO box that I get checks at, and
mhm.
they'll go get the checks, and then they're like, "Did we get a big one today, mom?" And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's so
"Yeah,
cute.
today's a good one," or "Oh, we got a little one," or "Oh, we didn't get any today," and
Yeah.
they're like, "Are you paying yourself yet, mom?" And, I'm trying to like talk to them about some of this stuff so they understand that I'm working hard. I'm trying to literally build something, right? And so they're
Yeah.
proud of me, and they understand it a little. I mean, not completely, but a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's important to me, and your priorities like need to be that. And at times, yes, I'm in here like, hey, I just need to send these emails to my employees for tomorrow. Then we'll go to the park or whatever.
Yeah.
I try not to sit here and work all night or weekends. Like I really
Mhm.
do, because I need to take a step back and decompress and relax too, and do all the other
Yeah.
stuff, around the house
Yeah.
or whatever, that, chores or outdoor stuff that needs to be done. Right. So I
Mhm.
think you just have to be cognizant of it.
Definitely. I know you mentioned that you wrote a book, best-selling
Hmm.
author. So tell me about how you decided to do that, what it's about, and
Hmm.
what that was like for you.
Yeah. So I never wanted to be an author. I had zero desire, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and I joined a women entrepreneur group in Denver, and I went to this brunch, which I love brunch. I'm like, okay, I'll go for the brunch. And
Yeah.
the keynote speaker was a woman who owns a publishing house in Denver. And I just loved her. I loved her energy. And so I went up to talk to her afterwards, and I was like, I apparently told her, like, I think I could do this maybe. And at the time, I had no clue what I would even write about. And she's
Yeah.
like, and so apparently we decided to do this. And honestly, I sat down and wrote, and all these stories poured out of me. So it's called Real Vibes Only: Unapologetic Confessions of a Hot Mess Mompreneur. And it is just a
But
bunch of short stories of things that I've gone through in life. Some are about kids, some are about life, some are trauma, some are kind of medium lighter stuff. But it's really just being real and saying, like, I'm a hot mess. I'm trying my best. I'm doing a lot.
yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to juggle it all. And like giving people permission to be like, oh, she's not perfect. I don't have to act perfect either. Cause we see this in society, like we're struggling alone. We're like suffering in silence,
Yeah.
feeling like, oh, all these women are perfect. No, they're not. They're
Mm,
just fake and pretending to be. But if you
yeah.
can actually be real and vulnerable and connect with other women in your life, that's where the deep connection happens, right?
Yeah.
So really, I just want to empower people to like own their story, get rid of shame and guilt from whatever has happened to you. At least, at least find peace with yourself. And if you
Yeah,
feel called,
definitely.
then go share your message, because I guarantee somebody out there is struggling with the same thing. But you don't
That's
have to.
huge.
The worst case, just find peace with yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is so huge. I love that, and definitely excited to read your book. I will link it in the
Thank you.
show notes below. Where can people connect with you if they want to continue the conversation?
Yeah. I would say the best place is my website. So it's Chelsea, CHELSEA, Husum, HUSUM.com. There's like book info, speaking info, social links, all kinds of stuff there. And truly, like if something that we said resonated, I love when people reach out and say, hey, this you said this and I felt like you were
Yeah.
talking to me, or I felt connected to that. Or
Mhm.
maybe you're struggling and you just need somebody
Mhm.
to be like, it's gonna get better. It's gonna be okay. I
Yeah.
love being that for people. I truly do.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, we will link everything in the show notes below. I'm sure a
Thank
lot of
you.
women took so much away from today. I think this was such a great conversation, and I love everything that you shared, from having employees to going full time as an entrepreneur and traveling and writing your book without ever wanting to. I just think that this was such a great conversation that touched on so many different aspects of being a mom and an entrepreneur. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being part of the Mom Boss Central community. I'm just so grateful to
Thank
have you
you.
here and excited for the community to hear this conversation.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Mom Boss Central. I hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and maybe even a few new strategies to rock your mom boss journey. Remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. And don't forget to share the love with your fellow mom bosses. Make sure to join the community at mombosscentral.com. It's completely free and a space to connect with like-minded women. All you have to do is sign up and start connecting. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and living authentically. We're so happy to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community.